Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. This is episode 2 of the Lifted 32 at Direction Fab Shop. Today we're going to go over the budget, how I plan these builds. Once I get an idea in my mind, how I kind of see if it's worth really looking into and if I can afford to build it. We'll go over that. Then we'll also look at actual AI rendering of the car. I have several of these. I didn't settle on the first one and just kind of toyed with it. And I have made some changes as a design since then. All the AI designs will be in black. Doesn't really like to use the iridescent colors that I'm going to use. And then we'll look at the garage. I've done some rearranging, cleaned up the rear ends a little bit, and get started on getting everything together. So hopefully the body and frame will be here next week. Once the frame gets in, we'll start really putting together the car. We'll start the real construction of it, get everything fitted, get the motor fitted in the frame, get all the suspension welded on, get all the alignments done, all the little tabs that have to go on the frame I want to get done. That way when I take it, get a rolling chassis, we'll then take the body, put the body on there, make sure everything fits, take the body back off, and take the frame all the way down to bare metal. Send it, get it blasted, including both the front end and rear end, and have the whole thing powder coated. Once it gets back from powder coat, we'll bring it back, put the motor back in, which the motor will be rebuilt. You'll see those episodes during that time. We'll be rebuilding the motor once we send the frame to powder coat. Have a brand new Cummins 4BT engine in it, as well as a rebuilt 4L80E and the MP 159 or 149, 149 transfer case, which will make the car all-wheel drive. That being said, once we have all of that rebuilt, frame gets back, we'll put those in and then start plumbing and have the final plan. So the idea is to completely build the frame out, put the body on there only twice. So once during fitment and then the second time as the final fitment. We put the body on there while the frame is gone. We'll also send the body off to get the wrap job done. Like I said in my first video, I'm not going to paint this car. It will have a primer, but it won't be painted. I like to change colors on it. This is a really easy way to do that. There is a few products that we might experiment with, but I'm not sure just yet. Once we have the body back from wrap, frame back from powder coat, we'll put everything back in, as I said, put the body back on, and then we'll start interior work. Interior will be like the wiring, and then the leather work for the interior. I have a really cool idea for the interior. It'll be very modern. Interior will be black leather and brown leather with a hint of aluminum in it. More to come on that. And then get the car ready for its first drive. So we'll get started. Here's the first part of budget. So I use Microsoft Excel, and what I do is I go through here and name every aspect of the car. We're going to start with column A over here. So we go through the frame details, axle, brakes, suspension, fuel delivery system, steering, the radio, interior, paint and body, wheels and tires, lighting, and then the engine and everything that goes on the engine, as well as the drivetrain, such as transmission transfer case and drive shafts, tools needed. I did have to buy a new welder. Mine finally died. And then at the bottom here, I have the material total and then taxes paid so far, and then shipping if there is any shipping. This budget is $40,000, as you can see up here. $40,000 minus the final total. This is what I have left. So any of these parts that I look in, of course, there's a few things on here most likely missing that I just haven't put in. Right off the top of my head is, if we go up here to brakes, we have the front and rear rotor pad set with a brake booster and master cylinder. I don't have a pedal, so I know a pedal is going to cost $60, $70. That comes back out of this pot here for my final budget. Now, when I'm doing this, I first start off by my main sources of parts. For instance, when you look for a 4BT diesel, I know that everything on a 5.9 diesel on the front end is the exact same as a 4BT. So you want to make sure you get the right year on that, and you can do that by looking at the numbers that are printed on the side of the motor. Mine most aligns with 89 through 93, so a 1990 Dodge diesel. So that's where all these parts are from. Of course, these are all brand new parts. I utilize Rock Auto and Amazon for a lot of these things. Some of these that you don't see anything filled out on is stuff that I'm still looking at. For instance, oil pressure sensor and oil temp sensor generally comes with a gauge set. Because I haven't made my mind fully up on what gauge set I'm going to use yet, that is the reason why those are blank. AC compressor bracket, this was one that actually really shocked me. When I started looking this up, the cheapest one I could find was almost $500, and it appears to just be a couple of little pieces of sheet metal tack welded together. So this might actually be something that we end up building and fabricating on our own, or going to the junkyard and seeing if we can find one to pull off, because that is an insane amount of money for just a little bracket. And then, of course, upper and lower radiator hose. Until the motor gets in and the radiator gets in, I don't really know what option I will go on that. What I generally do is I'll get a piece of welding wire or a hanger, and I'll bend it into the shape that I need. And then I'll go to the parts store and go through the wall of radiator hoses and find which one I need with the appropriate diameter of the hoses. And then fuel filters, it's another one of those things that, again, there's a couple of different options here. Since I'm not doing a real high performance engine, at the most, I might be pushing 300 horsepower. I don't think I'm going to go with the super expensive fuel setup. I'll probably just go with the factory stuff. And these are on the motor now. They'll most likely just be sourced locally. So we go up here, paint and body. I was grateful enough to get with Rust No More Street Rods. If you haven't heard of them, they do amazing work on glass bodies. Great people to work with. Donna is the one that I worked with there. She's the wife of the company. And great woman. They love working, doing what they do, and they work with their customers very well. I ordered their full package. So basically I got the body, I got power windows already installed. I got the windshield frame, the back glass, quarter glasses, deck lid attached, interior panels, and interior headliner. So there wasn't any options, I think, that I told them not to do other than the outside door handles, mainly because of this right here, the door poppers. There will be a outside door handle, but not where you think. More to come on that later. On the interior, we have the painless wiring set. This is one of those things that when we get to this video, I'll go through the difference of the quality of these wire sets. It is imperative that you do not go cheap on a wire set. They all look the same, but then when you get some of these wire sets and you can literally just take the wire and crimp and pull it off with your thumbnail, it's very evident that the insulation is not that high quality on any type of older vehicle, especially when you're talking about a diesel. You're going to have vibration, so you don't want your wire insulation to just fall apart because it's rubbing up against the surface, which it will. There's multiple points of contact where a wire will rub against something. So I'll go through that. Painless is well known for this. Vintage air system. I actually got to talk to these guys about 2 months ago and get exactly what I needed for the 32. This is one of those that you just don't cheap out on. There's multiple companies out there. There's some on Amazon that are $200. There's a reason for the price, and quality and name comes with that. So we will be going with the vintage air system throughout the build. On the gauges, this is what I was talking about. On these particular gauges, I've looked at Dakota Digital, didn't really like what I saw with Dakota Digital. They're a great brand, but they're also around $1,000 for a gauge set, and they just didn't have the gauge set that I liked. So at the moment, we are going with an Amazon brand. These are usually found to be marine gauges, so you got to be careful on what you order to make sure that it has miles per hour. We are using a GPS speedometer, mainly because trying to do the math of getting the 4L80E, then getting the TCM, then programming the TCM to understand the motor, the transmission, the transfer case, and my tire size, along with my 410 gears, is just insane. And it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to put all that effort into a part that may or may not be correct. And since this thing is going to be loud, it's going to be flashy, I want to make sure that I'm reading the right speedometer. So I did get a GPS speedometer, as well as the radio also has a GPS sensor in it. I will show you guys how to upgrade that to make sure you're not using some type of knockoff sensor, so that you keep a high quality GPS signal and your speedometer works at all times. On the seats, I did pull some Mustang GT premium seats. I don't know if I'm going to use those just yet. I might be going back and pulling some Denali Canyon seats, just because they are a little bit slimmer. Once the body gets here, we'll do the fitment and go from there. Sound, heat, and installation. This is a big one. Dynamat's the only person to go to on this. There's so many different companies out there that try to replicate Dynamat. I've used Dynamat now for close to 15 years. There's just no one else can touch their product. There is a correct way to do it and an incorrect way to do it. So we'll be going through that and what it means to really put in the correct amount of insulation, not overdo it to where you're just wasting money. GPS tracker, there will be a hidden tracker on the car. This will be talked about in later episodes. However, it won't be shown just due to security of the vehicle. Steering. Now, this is one that I've went so many times back and forth on. I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to stay the way I currently have the steering design right now. If you see this offset steering gearbox, basically this is a box that it comes out at the top, drops 12 inches, and then this steering rod actually comes out of the bottom. The purpose of this is when you're running without a hood or you have the hood up, that you won't have a steering shaft go through there. Since there's no exhaust on this side, I don't know if that's even going to be worth looking at. However, there is a vacuum generator and a power steering pump there. So we might have to still do this, just not sure yet. On the steering gearbox, I did use an Amazon cart for this, but it is by Auto Parts. It was only a couple dollars cheaper than Rock Auto, but it is a Ford factory F250 steering gearbox. I'm going to go with the brand new one on that. It just makes sense to do. As well as the steering links, which is a complete rebuild of the drag link, pitman arm, and all the ball joints. I will talk about why it's important to go over these, as well as the casters. You want to make sure you don't have death wobble. And with this vehicle being as light as it is and as big as a tire, death wobble is a real concern. Fuel. So fuel, I did everything with Evil Energy. Evil Energy is an incredible brand. They do high quality stuff. All of my airbag system is in Evil Energy as well. I actually have it here in my office. So we will be doing a 19-gallon fuel tank in the trunk. There won't really be much of a trunk. We're doing the fuel line, the fuel filter, the fuel pump, and the fuel pump mounts. All of this, I will not be using the fuel pump that is on the 4BT. It does have a working fuel pump right now. However, I don't want that vacuum pull. I'd rather have a push. So we will be doing a fuel pump instead, especially for the cost of it, $70. It doesn't make sense to put that extra load on the engine when we can just do an electric version and you can hear it pump up and get that satisfaction of knowing too that the pressure is a lot more regulated than just that little pump one. Suspension. The suspension is a big deal on this car. So the suspension, we are doing shock hoops. I did at one point have it designed to have 2 shocks per tire per wheel. The design come off of kind of a Baja look, but I've kind of changed since then, and I'm going to go with Fox shocks, just with the reservoir. They actually have the same compression rating as doing 2 shocks. They are adjustable, so a little bit softer in the rear, a little bit harder in the front due to the weight. That way when you hit the brakes, you don't nosedive, and vice versa. When you gun on it, the rear end of the car doesn't slam into the ground. We are doing airbags on this. This will be, they are 8 inches of lift from compressed to full max. These airbags are the strongest ones there are. They're from max speeding rods. There was one set that was a tad bit taller. They were almost triple the price. We may go back and change those out. I'm not 100% certain. I have other applications I can use these airbags on. So if I put these on here and I don't like them, that might be something that I go back to Universal Air Ride and buy 4 of their bags. All 4 corners will be on airbags. They will all be safety guarded by a 5-inch bump stop because the airbags collapse are 4.5 inches tall. So the bump stop will stop it from smashing the airbags, which causes a pinch, which can cause a blowout. So they will all have a 5-inch bump stop all the way around, and then on the opposite side, going all the way out, and for, if you hit a pothole or torque, there will be limit straps on all 4 sides of the axle in order to make sure that we don't rip an airbag or overextend one, which can damage the life of the airbags. So both sides of that is worked out. We do have automatic discharge air valve that will allow the system, every time you park it, it will discharge the system completely. The idea behind this is to keep a dry system instead of building up a lot of moisture. We do have a parallel 4-link in the front, which matches what the Dana 60 is already built for, and then a rear triangulated link. These 2 kits look good. They are here. As you can see, I have them clicked on received. They are here. They're a little bit smaller than what I thought they would be. So these might also be returned and changed out for some TMR custom stuff. TMR does a great job of building some of these 4 links, and they're actually pretty cheap. It wasn't that big of a price difference. It's just that this was readily available and the TMR one had a wait list. So I went ahead and bought this one. I'm kind of rethinking that now to go ahead and buy the TMR. On the brake boosters, we are doing the R1 Concepts. These are black rotors. These rotors and pads also come with new calipers. So the calipers are already powder coated red, which I like, and it'll be all new rotors, all new pads. They are drilled and slotted. Brake booster is a factory brake booster for an F250, as well as a brake master cylinder for an F250. That way we know that the stroke and diameter is the correct size. On the axles, we will be doing a front axle and rear axle rebuild kit. This is simply bearings and seals. I'm not going to replace gears unless I open the axles up and I see something wrong with the gears. Both of these axles had less than 30,000 miles. They were on the same truck. So hopefully they're pretty good. On the front truss kit and rear truss kit, not sure just yet if I'll be doing these. The current setup I have with doing the center line of the axles yesterday and the frame, it didn't look like I really needed to do that. So still making up my mind on these. Barnes 4-Wheel Drive is an awesome website. If you're building four-wheel drive off-road, I highly suggest barnes4wheeldrive.com and TMR Customs. Both of them have just insane amount of engineering done in their products, and they're really cheap. They're pennies on the dollar what you find on some of these other places. For instance, the rear truss kit on a 10.5 Sterling, which is the factory axle for an F-250, on Amazon was $400, and Barnes has it for $67, and it's a higher quality and thicker gauge steel. So really look for this stuff. Frame, we're doing a 32 frame. One of the things that I normally do on my builds is I normally hand build my frames. This is actually the first build I've ever done where someone else built my frame and they built it to factory specs. And the reason being is when you see this frame, it curves everywhere. It curves up and down and left and right. And it's just extremely hard to do that out of tubing. So generally what I do is I use rectangular tubing. I use 3/16 2x4 steel. And I build it out with a Z rear end and a Z front end. So if I'm going low to the ground, if I'm building higher up like this one, everything will be more flat. But because of the curve of the body and because of the amount of money that I'm putting in this car, it made more sense to have everything match the car as factory as possible when we're talking about body size, and then change everything as far as the drivetrain and suspension goes. So now I'm going to go down here to how I do my actual budget. So I always have four things. I have my actual budget, which is $4,000 or $40,000, $40,000. And then I subtract that from the final total. This total is everything from the material total plus tax plus shipping. And you can see there the very simple equation. Then we go over to paid. This is how much money I've actually spent thus far on the project. So I've spent $16,112.62. Everything over here, as you go up, you can see the paid has X. If I've received it, it has X. And then the next column over is installed, and then plus or minus on the budget. So for instance, on the Turbo HX30, I've already purchased a new turbo. It was on sale. So I went ahead and purchased it. I haven't received it yet. It's supposed to be here tomorrow. Obviously, I haven't installed it. And the budget, according to this number, is zero. It's $196.90. I'll go look at, for instance, the P-pump conversion kit. So I have budgeted $1,800. Let's say I find somewhere else and it's for $1,500. So now that's plus $300 on the budget. That plus $300 obviously will be put back into the pot, and that's other places I can spend my money. And then the worst part of the budget is left to buy. So as you can see right now, I still have to purchase $18,140 in parts. Some of this stuff is also labor. For instance, interior leather work. I am not a seamstress, so that will be outputted. I have $1,000 just off of a recent project. There's only the 2 seats that will need to be done. We will be doing all the rest of it. And the powder coat shop, $1,500 labor. And then the wrap shop, I also have $2,000. The big ticket items left are really the wheels and tires for off of customoffsets.com. That's the ones that really hit you in the gut. And then, of course, that P-pump conversion. This P-pump conversion, though, does take care of some of the other things up here. For instance, it does replace the injectors. It also has a sensor, or also has a gasket kit for the heads. So some of this stuff might go away. I just haven't fully looked through this to see what all it does. They do have different sets. They have like a whole rebuild kit, and this is like the mid set. And then there's other things in here that are not priced out yet that will come out of the budget, such as the transfer case will need to be rebuilt, as well as the 4L60E that'll need to be rebuilt. Funny enough, these seems really low. That's actually a pretty common price on Facebook that you can find those transmission transfer cases for. So overall, this is how I do my budget. I strongly suggest everyone put together a list like this when you're doing a build. It makes it a lot easier to keep up with what you have, what you need, and also how much you spent. I will say, if you're one of the guys who has a wife that is choking you for every dollar you spend on your car, don't do this. my wife knows how much I'm spending on this. I told her I wouldn't go a dollar over 40,000, and I've done a lot of work and a lot of research to make sure that I stay under 40,000, with the idea that when I finish the car, any extra money that I have to it, will go into the second part of this series, which is a teardrop trailer that will match, have the same wheels and tires, same color, kind of the same interior design as the car, and it will be going for a cross-country tour. So now we'll head over to the garage and take a look at what I have going on inside. So far, I've got the axle set up to start getting the frame in. I took off a lot of the junk that was on there. There was a few things I found wrong with these axles. Not anything bad. It's just stuff that has to be replaced no matter what. There was 2 items that I wasn't expecting to replace that I guess I probably should have anyway. As you can see here, those are bent. So it will need all new wheel hub assemblies, which run about $300 a piece. This bracket also is a tad bit bent. I think I can bend it back. It's not too far off. If you look from the other side, this one does cock out just a little bit. So not too severe. Of course, all the brake lines, we're not reusing any of that. So all the brake lines will be rebuilt. And then I have my airbag placement set up here. Ideally, this is where they will sit. We checked on it. So here is the center line of the axle. Center line of the axle. Here is the width of the frame. And then with the airbag setting here, we have our flange that sits like this. And it comes within about a half an inch. There's a way I can manipulate that a little bit to make that work. Obviously, this can't sit directly down on this because the bolt's got to come up through the bottom. So we will set it somewhat like that. And that's how we'll manipulate it to go further that way. Same thing on this side. Airbag will be sitting right there. These will come off. That will come off. Shocks will stay in the factory position on this. The sway bar links will stay. There will be a sway bar on this. It will not be an F250 sway bar. It will be something out of a car, something much smaller. Mainly due because if you put an F250 sway bar on this, it would just ride like a rock. That's meant for a lot of weight. This doesn't have that weight. And then the bump stops Most likely we'll have a tab built up right here and a bigger tab built up right here in order to meet both those bump stops. Same thing on the rear end. Rear end worked out just a little bit better, as there's the center, there's the width of the frame. This is where airbags will mount, and then the factory shock brackets will be cut off. Those will be mounted probably out here or maybe over to the side. Not sure yet. Still got to work on that. And then the bump stops will be located just directly on top of the axles. With the Cummins, I cut off the thing that was here for the agricultural pump where the radiator used to sit. I still have to make the brackets. Take that old thing off, make the bracket that'll go up to the side of the motor on both sides. So I can take this thing off. This is meant to go up to a mechanical pump. And then we put in our adapter for the transmissions and the flywheel. Put those on there. It has a different starter. I do have both starters for both transmissions, plus this starter. So that's great. But I'll replace all of this. And then, of course, I took off the huge air thing that was here. Now, if you look at the turbo on this, one of the things that you'll notice first, I'm at the back of the engine. This is the intake side. That's the exhaust side. So this turbo needs to flip 180. So my intake is here, and the intake will actually go to an intercooler. You don't need an intercooler for this, but it does help with performance and it does help with fuel mileage. So I will be doing an intercooler. I did buy a whole new turbo set. This turbo here is, I believe it is a H177, and I bought an H30, so just a little bit bigger turbo, put a little bit more power to it. I am buying a whole new exhaust manifold just because this one is kind of eat up with surface rust. That's a really hard thing to clean up on these. They're cast, so it's not smooth metal to begin with. And I just don't want to mess with it. Just the one bolt I already took off, broke off into the head. So got some stuff today to ease up all of that. Then we move down here, and of course, right where I need the bracket for the AC mount is where they mounted this. So this is where the actual AC mount goes. There will be a new water pump, new alternator, new harmonic balancer. If you use a heavier balancer on these motors, they tend to run a little bit better and not near as much vibration. So everything over here will be brand new. With the P-pump conversion, you get a whole new front intake side, front timing cover. This is a FE pump. I will clean it up, probably blast it, get all the paint off of it, change out a few things on it to make it look a little nicer, and then sell it. Things like the injector tubing and the injectors with the P-pump, all of that stuff is very valuable, especially to someone that's wanting to stay with this. I'm going to get rid of it. The main reason why I want to get rid of it is for fuel efficiency. These work, but because this was on a pump, I'm pretty certain the spring in there is a low idle spring, which means the motor will only go to 2,000 RPM. Well, on a car, when you start slowing down or speeding up, that spring needs to be able to govern, which the P-pump does automatically. It needs to govern your RPMs. So when you're at a red light, you don't want the motor running at 2,000 RPMs just winding out to nothing. That's the reason why I'm getting rid of this. I don't know enough about them to rebuild it and change that spring. And from what I've been told, it's not worth it. By the time you rebuild it for the spring and all of that, you could have just bought a P-pump. So we're gonna buy a P-pump. Right here, this hose where they had some sort of a plate. The oil level actually comes up to here, and that's how they were seeing if it was full of oil. It goes into the side of the oil pan. I did order a new oil pan. That is where the vacuum pump and power steering pump goes. And then, of course, here's your oil filler. And then there is your dipstick to check. Here's what I was talking about on the fuel. There's your 2 fuel filters. I'm just going to keep those. Might change those out to the Evil Energy ones because that does just bolt on right here. Hadn't made up my mind. For color, I haven't decided quite yet if I want to make it pop or if I want to keep it the same color as all of that stuff. Now those will be a really dark purple black color. I forget what the actual name of it was, but it's a really dark color. The transmission, transfer case, all the drivetrain, the frame, everything, suspension, all of that will be powder coated the same color. I'm not sure if I'm gonna do the Cummins yet. The complementary color, the purple, usually is neon green, kind of like the color of the jack stands, or a bright orange, kind of like the color of my compressor over there. We'll just have to see when we get there. I think after I get the motor in the actual frame, get it all kind of lined up, then we'll kind of look at what it does. I'll order some swatches of powder coat and the wrap that I'm going to use, as well as the powder coat I know I'm going to use on the frame, and kind of see where it goes. As I was stating, lots of parts coming in on there. That's the radiator, that's the grill, that's the rear triangular link, and then that's the front. And like I said, with this max speeding rods, it's good. It's a good material. It's thick. Everything's grade 8 bolts. All of the brackets are 1/4 inch. A really nice setup for the price. I just don't know if it's quite big enough. When you take these over here and you put it next to the axle, it looks really small. What I've seen on TMR and Barnes 4-wheel drive is they like 2 inch. 2 inch is really, really heavy for this car. That is 1 1/4. If I do change anything, I might go 1 1/2. I haven't quite made up my mind yet. We'll just have to see. It was $200, so if I get it and I start fabbing it up on here, there are other places I can use that tubing that I know I'm going to use that tubing, at least that size. So if I don't like it, I can always put it to the side. But that's it on this episode. I'm actually about to go change clothes, put some wheels on I bought some wheels from Home Depot to put on the Cummins, so I can roll it around. That weighs 800 pounds as it sits right now, so it's very difficult. And with the pickup points being here and there, it doesn't fit between the legs very well on the engine hoist. So I would like to be able to move it out of the way, especially if I go pick up the body next week. So that's all. Thank you for stopping by, and I hope you like and subscribe, and we'll see you on episode 3. Bye.